Do you discuss topics such as death, sexuality, and substance use with your kids? Or do you feel hesitant to even bring up these topics? Hi everyone. Teach My Child is dedicated to helping children maximize their potential. In this video, we'll walk you through how to talk to kids about sensitive topics. Parents may feel like they are protecting their children by not talking about these subjects. But research shows that keeping an honest and open communication line with your kids about these matters is much better for them in the long run than keeping them in the dark. To get you started, we've put together some tips for broaching these topics with your children. But first, why you should talk about sensitive topics. Conversations about death, sexuality, substance use, or mental illness can be difficult even between adults. Naturally, parents also struggle to discuss these topics with their children. It's necessary to push past your initial discomfort to set up open communication lines with your children. Studies show that parenting practices, like establishing an open parent-child communication, fostering a high quality of parent-child relationship, and supervising your children's activities, all have a positive effect on adolescent development. These practices also deter adolescent involvement in high-risk behavior, such as substance use and unsafe sexual practices. To achieve this, communication should be characterized by an open expression of ideas and feelings, and an atmosphere of family care. You have to let your children feel that they can talk to you about anything, in a safe space. Dr. Tepper, a child and adolescent psychologist, warns against the dangers of not discussing difficult topics with your children. In her interview with 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹liche, she said,
"Kids who have access to the internet will Google whatever you are unwilling to explain. If you don't answer their questions with honest, reassuring information, they will get it from unsafe, unreliable sources."
This statement is reflected in research. For example, adolescents who don't talk with their parents about sexual issues are more likely to turn to peer norms to guide their sexual behavior. Rather than risk your children getting information on these topics from unreliable sources, it is better to let them know that they can come to you to talk about these things at any time. Now let's go through how you can discuss sensitive topics with your kids. 1. Bring up sensitive topics at the right time. The hardest part about discussing sensitive topics may be bringing them up in the first place. Professor Jean-Paul Boudreau, a professor of psychology and the director of the Children Health Infancy Learning Development, or Child Lab at Ryerson University, suggests framing the conversation using something your children can relate to. Perhaps they have a friend who has been very sad recently. Use this to begin a conversation about mental health, by anchoring the topic on something they have seen or experienced. The timing of these conversations is also important. For example, parenting and youth development expert, Dr. Deborah Gilboa, believes that the best time to start a discussion regarding death is before someone dies. She suggests that if there is someone in your life whose health is declining, you should be honest with your children about being worried about that person, and wanting to spend time with them. Avoiding the topic might leave your children shocked by that person's death later on, which can make them feel less safe in the world. 2. Use the media as a starting point. The media is also a good way to start discussing difficult topics. You can draw on what your children are currently interested in. If a movie they are watching features a character who is struggling emotionally or psychologically, you can use this to bring up topics relating to mental health. Professionals do this too. For instance, psychologists have used the animated film, Inside Out, to help children explain and process their emotions in therapy. There are also several children's books that deal with sensitive topics, including adoption, family issues, sexuality, and violence. These books help discuss these topics with children who may or may not be currently undergoing a difficult situation. Children who are experiencing difficulties can realize that they are not the only ones experiencing certain problems, so they can find solutions and manage their situation. Children who are not currently coping with hardship themselves can also read these books to develop understanding and empathy with others. Stories can humanize abstract issues. You can use them to get your child to talk about how they would feel, and what they would do in particular situations. 3. Speak age-appropriate language. Remember to use age-appropriate language when talking about these topics with your children. Your goal is to help them understand. So don't overwhelm them with statistics or technical definitions. For example, you can explain depression to children, based on when it kicks in. Although everyone feels sad sometimes, one undergoes depression when his negative emotions affect his daily life. If your children see you pouring a glass of wine, you can also say that it is something only grown-ups can drink. Speaking age-appropriate language does not mean sacrificing accuracy. It is important to use proper terms with certain topics, like sex. Instead of using substitutes, like pee-pee or flower, to refer to sexual organs, make use of the correct biological terms. Using substitute words can teach your children that these parts are shameful. Thus, they might find it more difficult to talk about sex and ask questions in the future. 4. Encourage questions. When talking about sensitive topics, you should remind your children that there's no such thing as a stupid question. The last thing you want to do is to make them feel that a topic is taboo or forbidden. If this happens, they won't come to you when they want to learn more about it. Try your best to answer any questions they have, even the hard ones. But keep in mind that it's okay to admit that you don't know the answer, and return to the conversation after doing some research. As a parent, you can raise questions as well. Asking them what they already know about a topic is a good way to correct any misinformation they might have picked up. You can also follow this up with a question.
Do you want to know more?
To get the conversation going. 5. Be open and understanding. One of the most important things to remember when discussing sensitive topics with children is to be warm, accepting, non-judgmental, and non-critical when they bring up these topics themselves. Say things like,
"I'm so happy that you trust me to help you with this."
or thank them for approaching you first. This will help them feel closer to you, and will encourage them to discuss other issues with you in the future. When processing difficult emotions like grief, children need to be assured that their emotional and psychological needs will be met. They may be asking themselves,
"If I talk, will someone listen?
If I cry, will someone hold me?"
Show them that they are not alone in dealing with this problem. As Dr. 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹ecie puts it,
No matter how awful the conversation feels to you, what you're doing by having it is showing them that talking to you is the right thing to do. You're telling them time and time again, "You can count on me."
protecting your children does not mean keeping them in the dark about sensitive topics. On the contrary, you should explain these topics to them in a way that they can understand, so they are better equipped to make decisions in the future. Foster an honest, open, and non-judgmental communication line between you and your children, to let them know that you can discuss any topic that they may be curious about later on. Have you ever tried bringing up sensitive topics with your child? How did you approach the issues? Share with us your insights. We hope you're now feeling confident about discussing sensitive topics with your children. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, so we can show you more ways on unleashing your child's potential. Hit that notification bell too, so you don't miss any of our videos. Thanks for watching.